These are people who believe in equity, justice, fairness, who are committed to progress, national advancement, and who are all convinced that there's something wrong with Nigeria, that Nigeria should be a country of excellence, and that to pursue that excellence, certain things need to be done to rescue our country, to move our country forward. The argument so far has thrown up a lot of issues in terms of the national question and the fault lines within the Nigerian system. And I think it's a great privilege that we have today with us one of the leading lights of the Nigerian experience, Dr. OLISA Agbakoba, OON, SAN, FCI, ARB, and clearly also one of the most accomplished lawyers, not just in Nigeria, but also in the whole of Africa. Well, you notice one thing about Dr. OLISA Agbakoba. He was also born in the month of May, like our host, DELE Momodu. He was born on May 29. And, for everyone who is familiar with the democratic process in Nigeria, May 29 happens to be a very momentous date in Nigerian history. And incidentally, Dr. OLISA Agbakoba was one of those people who led the Nigerian community to that significant moment in 1999. So it's quite a great privilege. Many of you who are part of this program will know Dr. OLISA Agbakoba as a lawyer. Now he's one of the leading maritime and commercial lawyers in Nigeria, the senior partner at OLISA Agbakoba and Associates, and also the founder, and the lead partner at OLISA Agbakoba Legal, which is the first, legal firm to be involved in, affiliation with the state in terms of arbitration, alternative dispute resolution. And he was one of the, in fact, he was the main person who helped to set up that structure in the country. So he's an expert in maritime law, in commercial law, and he's been also, even more importantly, a mentor for generations of younger Nigerian lawyers. His law firm is one of the leading law firms in Nigeria. He's the only Nigerian lawyer, or rather, let me say, he's the pioneer in Nigeria of space law, in the same manner in which he's one of the big players in maritime law, in commercial law, providing job opportunities for many young Nigerians. But beyond all of that, also, he has made very significant contribution to Nigerian jurisprudence in various areas of the law, whether it's maritime or investment or international trade or entertainment law or intellectual property or, name it, the entire gamut, or even basic litigation. Now, I said earlier that he was also the man that established the Nigerian Shipping Chamber of Commerce because of his leadership that he has provided in the field of maritime law. He's also an author. He has written many books on a broad spectrum of issues, whether it's commercial law or intellectual property law or arbitration or alternative dispute resolution, and even more importantly, human rights law. Now, okay, that's on the side of law, of legal practice, where he's a leading light. But many people will remember him, perhaps his contribution in this other area that I want to talk about is perhaps more monumental than what he has done even as a lawyer. And that is his commitment to the pursuit of social justice, of public good, of the common good, of the rule of law, of justice. And there's a plethora of cases under case law in Nigeria, led by Dr. OLISA Agbakoba, documenting for posterity his efforts in promoting human rights in Nigeria. He is the founder of the Civil Liberties Organization. The Civil Liberties Organization was a leading body in the pursuit of human rights in Nigeria. Many will remember that before the crisis of 1993, led by Civil Liberties Organization and other bodies. And the Civil Liberties Organization, under his watch, was right at the forefront of the barricades when it mattered most in the history of Nigeria. And he himself was there physically in alliance with other pro-democracy activists in Nigeria, in alliance with other protesters. Now, he has not been well rewarded, I guess, by the Nigerian state, because in 1998, he was imprisoned by the Abacha administration for 6 months. He was in detention, and part of that detention, he was either on hunger strike, or for a whole month, he said he drank only water. And his only motivation is that he believes in Nigeria, and he thinks that Nigeria should be a country of excellence. And that is his motivation. What he does not see in Nigeria is that culture of excellence. And at great personal risk, he has continued to stay in the forefront of the struggle. Interestingly enough, Dr. Agbakuba himself is a product of the struggle. He has lived through the struggle, he has led the struggle, and is still leading the struggle. He was born on 29th May, as I pointed out, in 1953 in Jos, where he grew up. His father was a judge. And of course, he went to school initially in Jos Government Primary School, Hillcrest School. And then later, the family relocated in 1965 to the. He now became a student at the Immaculate Conception School. He will later go to Christ, the King's College, that famous school called CKC. But the more interesting fact is that at the age of 15, in 1967, the war broke out, and Dr. Agbakuba became a child soldier. He was part of that war, so you are also seeing a man who, as early as the age of 15, had been fighting, for causes, for ideological causes, has been committed to an idea of how society should be organized. The war ended in 1967, and when the war ended, he later went to College of Immaculate Conception. He also later went to Government College Ughelli, and subsequently, he went to read law at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and that was from 1973 to 1977. He subsequently went to the Nigerian Law School and was called to the bar in 1978. He would later go to the UK, the University of London, the London School of Economics and Political Science, where he got his LLM. When he came back, he worked briefly at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs in Lagos in the Intelligence and Research Law Department. And then, of course, he left about a year later to set up OLISA Agbakoba and Associates. But, what we remember, what we know him for has been his activism, his many writings, the many cases he has taken to court to defend the rights of individuals, to fight hypocrisy, to fight greed, to fight, retrogressive elements in Nigeria. The younger generation may not remember this, because now at 68, people still expect people like him to be the one to stand at the barricades to defend the younger generation. But this is what he has devoted his life to. And, he has already built quite a formidable legacy that nobody can question. So we're privileged today to have a man in our midst on this platform, a leading development law expert, a leading maritime lawyer, a humanist of the very first rank, winner of many awards, for what he has done for the promotion of human rights at both the local levels of national level, and the international level. However, I don't know whether DELE MOMODU will bring this up. Very recently, I saw another side of Dr. OLISA AGBAKOBA when he went on television to do advocacy for, I think, cancer treatment. And he came out and he made quite a number of statements on television. But I don't think, as a former student of medical ethics, it will be right for me to give you the details in that regard. But I'm sure from what he said when we interviewed him on Arise TV, it's not a subject that is likely to shy away from. So here you see a man fighting war, promoting human rights, defending Nigeria, and also promoting cancer. Finally, I would like to say this. Now, when I was in government, I think in 2014 or thereabouts, You know, we got to a point before the 2015 general elections whereby people were now saying, some people were approaching President Jonathan and they were saying Professor Atahiru Jega should be changed. They were raising issues about situations at the Independent National Electoral Commission. And President Jonathan was advised that, look, if you need somebody who will just deliver it as it should be, who will not, you know, allow any kind of manipulation, who will ensure transparency and accountability. The only man whose name kept showing up as a possible replacement at that time was Dr. OLISA AGBAKOBA. You know, everybody who came to the villa, those who spoke to the president, you know, I'm not saying this, I'm not revealing anything, you know, I'm just saying what I saw, what I heard, because I was there. You know, everybody said, make Dr. OLISA AGBAKOBA the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission. But you know how Nigeria is, that didn't happen. And after we lost the election, I recorded there were persons who said, oh, if you had made Dr. AGBAKOBA the chairman of INEC, you wouldn't have lost the election. But that's another story entirely. I think it's a great privilege to have to spend the next 2 hours or so with Dr. AGBAKOBA, a patriot, a great citizen, and one of the very best in all that he does. Thank you.
Dr. Ruben Abati, PhD. Thank you so much. Always at your best. Just a little correction. The Civil War did not end in 1967.
No, it began in 1967. It ended in 1970. Yes.
Yes. So, yeah, but nothing more to add, nothing more to remove. Thank you, Dr. Abati. It gives me great pleasure to start this interview with a man I admire so much. There are people you admire who may not know how much you admire them, but I'm sure he knows that I admire and respect him a lot. And that's why I had to search for him frantically 2 days ago. And I was very touched when he agreed to join us. Thank you, sir. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So, for someone who has fought too many battles for our country, Nigeria, did you ever envisage where we are today? Did it ever occur to you that a day will come when you'll be tempted to say, okay, maybe we have to fight again like we did during the Abacha era?
No, absolutely not. I never thought that, you know, things will come to this point where, you know, you begin to say, oh, because you see, I tell you a little story. You remember back in the early 70s when you did not need a visa to go to the UK. And I was at school and we were offered British passports because by then under the immigration policy, once you were a student, you were in the Commonwealth, you could just pick a passport. And so today my wife and I say, maybe we should have. But see, back then in the early 70s, we were so proud of the green passport that we said absolutely no, we're not going to touch it. So when you look at that time and where we were as Nigerians and the pride and the passion we had for our country, I remember when we go to the nightclubs and the reserved tables, they put on our table at Gulliver's Club, they'll put on our table, Nigerians. We had that pride. To be honest with you, right now, you know, we all feel it, not just me, we all feel it. We are not where we should be. That's the critical question. We're not where we should be in our country, and we're really challenged. And the challenge has come about by even the last statement of the Southern governors. So things are, you know, in a critical and very dynamic state of play that we all need to put our, you know, best thinking caps on to say, how can we, because the truth is we have nowhere to go. I don't see where at 68 I'm going to. And I'm not about to leave Nigeria. So we've got to put our thinking caps on to then ask the question, what is it that we can do to get the country back where it ought to be? That I think is a big, broad question that has so many answers. Depends on whether you're a Christian or a Muslim or a Southerner or a Northerner or a Southeast person who aspires to be the Igbo presidency. There are all kinds of cakes in the large bouquet of, a national cake. I think that's the problem. We're looking for that. Who has the key to the solution? Who has the key to open the door? And we say, this is the problem. It's all resolved. I think that's the question that, we really need to engage.
One of the things that stood out for me in Dr. Abati's introduction was the role you played during the Civil War. Could you tell me your experience and the lessons you learned from Civil War?
I learned to be a tough man. That's why I'm still standing. That's why I'm still standing. Incidentally, I was conscripted very early at age 13. My Biafra number is 338411. I was a member of the Immortal Battalion, Strike Force Division of the Biafran Army. So I've seen it all. I've eaten snakes, I've eaten rabbits, I've eaten all sorts, because we didn't have food. So I'm a rugged guy. I was in detention in Biafra at age 14. So I've been to the pits, and that has, given me the sort of strength I hope that, has carried me through till this stage. I've seen hunger, I've seen death, I've seen refugees running, I've seen chaos, I've seen decadence that Biafra was. I've seen Kwashiorkor, so I've seen it all at that level. And for those of us who have seen it, we certainly know that the last thing you want is a war. Anyone who has been in a war will know that a war is not the answer to our problem. So coming from the abyss of Biafra to another abyss sends the same signal back to say, whatever we can do to avoid Nigeria cracking up is a task that must be done, to quote the famous phrase that was given to General Gowon, go on with the task of one Nigeria. So whatever we can do to avoid this country slipping off the precipice, I think we all have to really think through in a very nationalistic way. What I do is I put on my arbitration cap and say, and I thank Dr. Ruben Abati for the very full and the introduction. I didn't even know you knew all this about me. So I thank you for that. Yeah, so as an arbitrator, what I would advise in this Nigeria case, because you see, if you are doing arbitration, if you come to me as a lawyer with your case, you might think that what I will do is to take your side. I won't look at the other side. I would say no. But I'd like to look at the Nigerian experience from the point of view of an arbitrator. And therefore, I take no sides. I just believe that all of us in this great country will have to understand that if we don't come to the middle, we can't get a solution. So there are those who have very strong views, fundamentalist views, extremist views, secessionist views. All those views must be resolved into one basket that we can mediate. So it's not that, for me, today it's not about a right or wrong thing. It's simply about what can we do to resolve our problem, because Nigeria, as a lot of people would know, if we got our leadership right, we should be one of the first 10, because South Korea is in the first 10 of industrialized nations. So Nigeria was at the point ahead of South Korea. So I would therefore think that if we had our leadership right, we would be maybe first 8. But because the structure of the country is wrong and the leadership of the country is wrong, these two fundamentals were not where we should be. So I would avoid the extremes in order to find a middle solution to resolve the problem. Because the current problem in Palestine and Israel is because there are two extremes. And if there are two extremes, you would never have a solution. So what are those things that we can do, which if we put on the table, all the aggregate players around the table will say, all right, even though this doesn't quite suit me, but I agree with this. That would be the formula as an arbitrator that I would put on the table for any discussion, in particular in light of what the governors are calling for. Well, the southern governors, the need for a national dialogue.
Okay. I believe we've been dialoguing almost forever. If there is one thing we're good at,
yes,
is that we love to talk. There was a British telecom advert that says it is good to talk.
Yes.
But in Nigeria, the question someone is asking is, how do you resolve a crisis when some people feel superior to others and won't condescend to come into arbitration?
That's a tough one. That's a hot one. Then I would say what Mandela, said when he was in prison. Why are the Africans detaining me? What's the mindset? We need to understand the mindset. What's the driving force of extreme views? And I can see a couple of driving forces. If you start with the Southeast question about we've been marginalized and it's our turn to be president. That's one strong view. The other strong view I see is about whether or not the North feels that it is participating as efficiently as it ought to. Because when you look at the geographical situation, the South, of course, is more developed than the North. And so there's a certain fear. And so as an arbitrator, when I discuss restructure in the South, the terms I use differ from when I discuss it in the North. By this, I don't mean actually being in Northern Nigeria, but when I'm discussing with Northern friends. So I see the fear in the North, and I see the frustration in the South. And what I suggested, which Ayo Adebanjo, the current leader of Afenifere, has described me as a foolish man. And for his age, of course, I accept what he says, even though I disagree. But I said, you see, like Abiola said, you can't shave a man's head in his absence. Restructuring has become a definition that no one can define. What does it actually mean? This is what I've told Southern leaders. So because that's what we need, the structure of Nigeria is challenging. And everybody agrees. Otherwise, El Rufai, as governor of the state of Kaduna, would not have proposed the report, which was developed by the APC. So it seems everyone agrees that the structure of Nigeria is questioned. But because of terminology, so an arbitrator does not look at terminology. Because of terminology, there is an apparent clash of ideas. But if both sides agree and have a way of stepping back from what the strong issues are,
Internet.
A better constitution accepted by all 36 states, I'm all for it. Because restructure as a word doesn't mean anything. What is more important?
Doctor, if you can hear me, seems you are frozen already. We can't hear you again. Okay, I think he will try to come in again. Wow. He is so lucid. Dr. Abati, you will agree with me that this is a very technical interview. Very, very technical. While we wait for him, you can please chip in some words.
Okay, I think it's important, it's interesting that some of the issues that were discussed 2 days ago and also yesterday have also cropped up in Dr. Agbakuba's contributions, particularly this debate about restructuring. And he has made the point that, look, restructuring in itself as a word does not mean anything. Is there an elite consensus on what it constitutes? What are the interpretations? Is it possible, from his own perspective as an arbitrator, as an alternative dispute mechanism expert, for Nigerians to come together to decide on what we mean by this? Because yesterday we talked about some people talking about self-determination. Yes. And we had Femi Falana on SAN saying that, well, he doesn't really believe that self-determination should be an extremist option. On Monday, or 2 days ago, we had Professor Akintoye, who was saying, well, self-determination in his own view means the Yoruba nation, because Nigeria is not working. So I think it's an emerging major issue in the course of this leadership and governance series. But I see Dr. Agbakoba is back.
Yes, so thanks. Yeah, thank you. So you see, I go back again to just summarize so that, as I go along, I sort of reflect on what I've said. All what I've said comes down to something that Bola Ige said, and I said this on the platform. When you bring together, if, for instance, Dele now wants to marry a wife, and the parents say, well, we don't want you to marry her because we have a wife for you. That's an imposition. It makes it difficult for you to accept. But if I want to marry my wife, Lillian, of my own accord and love, actually, do I need the marriage certificate? I don't. So the Constitution is less important than the agreement, the political agreement. And that's why in discussing democracy and federalism, federalist scholars put the Constitution last. It is the last item on the agenda. What is important is the political discussion that leads to a marriage. Unfortunately, of the three great political powers that have run Nigeria, the colonials, the military, and now the civil, not one has actually allowed us to discuss our marriage. It's been imposed, and it's a big problem. It's been imposed. We inherited it in 1914. And that's why Bola Ige said, in order for the marriage to be successful, the first thing to do is to ask Dele, are you interested in this marriage? Because every day you come to me, let me assume I'm your dad. So you come to me and I say, look, Dele, I'm tired of you coming to me to complain. Either you want to or you don't want to. And that's because I have imposed your wife on you. Dele, Bola Ige said, we have to answer that question. Do we want to be married? It can't be assumed. A lot of discussion says how do they put it again? The Nigeria is an indissoluble. Who said? Can't say that. It's open for discussion. But I feel that if you put that question to Nigerians, they're mostly going to say, no, we're happy to be in the marriage. The second big problem or question would be, what is the nature of the marriage? Am I going to allow a polygamous relationship? So we've got to ask, what is and I think that is where we have a big problem. We've not resolved the nature of our marriage. And when we resolve this, it will be to have a autochthonous agreement of ethnic nationalities. And that's why I agree very much with Nahoro, who said that national conferences of Nigerians where you have lawyers and doctors and professionals, no, because we don't own territories. The ethnic nationalities need to discuss. And in their discussions, you might find that what we think the elites, the political elite are imposing on us are issues, will not be issues. So we need to answer that question before we come to this big word called restructure. But it's a lot more simple. That's one formula. But even if you want to take this formula, then I have proposed something that is a lot simpler, to handle. If restructure means political rearrangement, then of course you've got to look at the Constitution. And the Constitution has got two lists. It's got the exclusive and the concurrent. There are 98 items of power on those two lists. 68 items are on the exclusive list, which means that the federal government alone can make laws in respect of items on the exclusive list. On the 30, which is the concurrent list, both the federal and the states can make law. But if the federal goes, then the state cannot. So really it means that the federal government is omnipotent, it's everywhere. So why don't we just take this list? And if you look at I've said this, I had a Zoom conference with the National Assembly Constitutional Committee, and I told them, have you looked at the list? 98 items. Now, if you look at the list, we can start to move some from the federal exclusive to the states. The first is technical devolution of powers. Technical. The political devolution is more problematic. But for instance, I saw the other day a bill to amend the constitution by transferring prisons from the exclusive to the concurrent list. And I said, now that the federal government is challenged for funds, it is asking itself, if we have no prisoners, why do we pay for the prisons? So that's one example of how you can transfer the prison authorities from the federal to the states, and so on and so forth. So that by a simple transfer of powers from the exclusive to the concurrent, you're actually restructuring. So the big grammar that Ohaneze and Afenifere and Arewa and Pandef and Middle Belt group are speaking can be simplified. That's my point. It can be simplified.
Nigeria is a country full of conspiracy theories.
Yes.
And some people are saying that too much knowledge is what is affecting people like you. That you see, when you know too much, then you begin to analyze endlessly.
Yes.
So, and one of the major issues at stake right now is that there are people in the South who believe that there is a Fulanization and Islamization agenda, which people like yourself will consider extremists. But when you look at banditry, terrorism, and all the things going on now, do you think your knowledge has the capacity to tackle those issues?
Absolutely not. That's a brilliant question. Absolutely not. And it strikes exactly at what I've been saying, that the political elites are less important than the ethnic nationalities. All the things you talked about, banditry, etc., are the side effects of a union that has not been agreed by the ethnic nationalities. That's the problem. The ethnic nationalities need to agree. And if they do agree, I think the point was made by Senator Ben Obi when he referred to the all-party conference in 2014, where seemingly intractable problems became solved because people came around the table. If the relevant people, whether they are political elite or intelligentsia or religious leaders or whoever we identify, and that's another big problem. Who are the guys who really should be discussing Nigeria's proper marriage? Is it us as elites, or is it the people I refer to as the ethnic sub-nationalities? I don't know. But if we find the answer to those who should be speaking for Nigeria, then they will resolve the problem, and they know how to resolve it. So the side effect of the problem, which is banditry and kidnapping as a result of the failed state we are living in, will disappear. So we must locate people who are able to resolve the crack on the wall, because the foundation has suffered a major fracture, and the right people must be on the table to resolve it. Failing which, we will have the problem that you are describing.
But the problem of the problem, because there are layers, the problem of the problems is that those you are saying should be able to discuss are the ones calling for the separation of the nationalities. They are already discussing it. You don't have to sit on the table these days. You and I were discussing via Zoom. So we already know the opinion of the leaders of those communities. You refer to Parayo Adebanjo just now. He is not saying he wants a Yoruba nation. He's talking about referendum. But the problem now is that a lot of them are so entrenched in their views that you can predict the outcome of yet another dialogue. We've had too many dialogues. So are you not tired of people just talking without results? When some people are, they control everything. They control the apparatus of power, power of coercion, everything.
Yeah.
If you look at the lopsidedness that we see, in fact, nobody has brought it to the fore more than President Buhari. So how do you deal with a situation where some people already feel, well, we have power, you people can continue to talk?
It's frozen.
Can you hear me, sir? Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
I'm hearing you now. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. No, I agree entirely. But you see, whether we like it or not, the discussion must take place around the central question that we want to save the patient who is on ICU, and doctors have different views of the medical solution, or we don't. It's come to that. And that's why I go back to the issue of a marriage. It's come to the fact that we are now in a situation of grave danger. We are now existentially threatened. Anyone who doesn't know it then is not speaking the truth. So I'm not sure whether anyone would want to hold on to a very strong view. Well, if we want to, then the choices are clear. Look, here are the choices. We continue to be like this. We will have a very violent breakup. Or we say to ourselves that we're in a situation where we are in mutually assured destruction, and that if we do not talk, things are going to go wrong. It's no longer, oh, I'm going to appease you or beg you. It's staring us in the face. The thing is going down. So why must I come and beg anybody? I've just spoken about the dangers of a civil war, as I was in one during the war, not only in one civil war, but I was a child soldier. So why would I need to tell anybody who cares to listen that where we are now, we are sliding towards a grave crisis? I think that's enough to put some shock into people. And if they want to hide their heads in the sand as ostriches, that's too bad. You can't force anyone to agree. And that's the point I was making that Bola Ige said. Igbos cannot force Yorubas to be in one country. Neither can the South force the North to be in one Nigeria. We've got to all agree. We've got to absolutely agree that it's worth saving the country. If we don't agree it is worth saving the country is going to go down. Is that tough a choice? There is no more talk about this. Either we deal with the issues we are faced with, or we go down. That's my view.
Have we not gone down already?
That's what I'm saying. We're absolutely down. It's not down because we don't have a war.
How do you?
We are 14. We are number 4. We are 14 on the index of fragile states. 2 years ago, we were number 20-something. So clearly, we're headed to the precipice. It's clear that we are going down. I wouldn't say down, because war has not broken out. But we have a situation where it ought to occur not only to these ethnic nationalities that I have described, it ought to also occur to our politicians, that they've got to put aside their differences in the struggle for political power, either today or in 2023, to say that if we're chasing the presidency in 2023 and there's no Nigeria, what do we make of it? What's the point? It's what Barbara Tuchman, the great professor of history, called the March of Folly. And I just watching the last Tsar of Russia last night. And for 30 years, he pretended that Rasputin was his nemesis, but it was him, poor leadership. So we have a leadership challenge, and we have a structural challenge, and we have the challenge of the silence of the political elite. We have the challenge and failure of the religious elite. We have the challenge and failure of the traditional elite. So all these are elements that come together to make up whether this country will survive or not survive.
Growing up, I used to hear Nigeria is a secular state, Nigeria is a secular state. What happened to the secularity?
Because we got conned by the military, who were in charge of writing the constitution in all the years that they were in power. And what they simply did was to sit down and craft what someone here called Bola from his iPhone has called fraudulent secularism. I agree entirely, because if you look at the nature of the Nigerian constitution, I'm not sure it is secular. I doubt that it is secular. It isn't. In most of the, I mean, you have Arabic on the currency, on the national currency. So how can that be secular? You have Arabic on the Nigerian army flag. How can that be secular? So those are the issues, those are the deep burning issues that we have staring us in the face that makes us to not manage our diversity properly. Because what we have not done properly is the management of our diversity. If power is in the hands of a section of Nigeria and power is utilized in a way that excludes others, then there will be grievances. And once you have grievances, you will have the problems that we're describing. And a simple way, one of the ways I think we can help to resolve the problem is devolution of powers. If you simply devolve power so that we all have a bit of space, so that secularism and religion cease to be important in the context of, if I'm from the Southeast and we want to Catholicize the Southeast, that's the problem of the Southeast. You don't bring it to the center. But because we have what we call centrifugal federalism, the federal structure is stronger the pyramid. There's a contest for political power. Who must be president? Because who's president controls everything. So it is in the interest of those who have a place on the table to decide the marriage of Nigeria to weaken the center. The center of Nigeria has to be weakened. And then the bottom of Nigeria, that's the local government, needs to be strengthened, because 80% of governance takes place at the local governments. But the governors of Nigeria have paralyzed the local governments. So it's ironic that the very governors who have paralyzed the local governments are the very ones talking about restructure. So you can see that this is a multi-headed, hydra-headed and difficult problem. But I feel, again, as an arbitrator, that if we intend to resolve the problem, the issue is the intent. If we come to the table without preconceived notions of where the solution lies, and we're open-minded about how do we resolve this challenge, and we all have to agree that there's a challenge, and the challenge is Nigeria is extremely fragile. I don't see anybody who can disagree with this proposition that Nigeria is extremely fragile. If we agree, then the next question will be how do we seal up the cracks? Are we able to? Are the cracks so fundamental? The national conference, when the Lamido of Adamawa told us that, well, if this thing fails, I will go elsewhere to my other kingdom outside in Cameroon. So that was not an honest intent. But if you have an honest intent and you know that this is the only place that you called home, you will do your best to resolve the problem. So at the political elite, by which I mean the politicians, the intelligentsia, academics, you, Dele, Ruben, media, religious leaders, traditional leaders, are we ready to really resolve this problem and leave big talk? Leave the word of restructure that is causing problem. What do we have in our mind? Do we want to save the country? And if we want to do so, I think it's simple. I've just given one solution. take the constitution and distribute powers. Give the power to people who ought to be exercising it. Why should to use Lagos State government as an example, why should Schedule 4 of the Constitution prescribe the local government should do A, B, C, D, E? But you find that
Ben, who are the intruders? Ben, can you mute everybody else? Ben.
Yeah, so what I was saying was that
Ben.
Yeah, so I was saying about the Lagos State, example. I'm just using Lagos State because I'm here. It could be any other state. I went to court because virtually all the governors emasculated their local governments. They collect the money and put in their pockets and just pay salaries, and nothing was going on. So I went to court and said to the judge, public funds must not, Section 7 of the Constitution says that the local governments must be democratically elected. And now that they're not democratically elected, the question is whether they can be funded by public revenue. He agreed that they can't be funded, but he then took the view that not to fund them would cause greater harm. So I lost the case. But the point here is the local governments are democratically elected, but the governors of the states emasculate them. That's part of the problem. So this restructure thing is up and down. There must be honest discussion on the part of everyone. The same governors who are talking about restructure have refused to obey the Constitution in relation to judicial and parliamentary funding. So the intent is important. The intent is important. There's been a lot of quibble about that, but they're not obeying the Constitution. So we need to have an honest conversation about whether Nigeria. It's not happening now. And I just hope that in the course of our foolishness and folly, we will not fall off the cliff. That's the danger. We will not then fall off in the course of pretending that we're talking restructure or devolution of powers or 2023. Today, so and so is offered the presidency and says, okay, I forget everything. No. This time, I think we have to come to a realization that unless we do the right thing, Nigeria is in trouble.
Well, I think that is an understatement. The great Chinua Achebe said we had a country, but it seems you believe we still have a country. What are the options before Nigeria right now?
The options would be critical engagement by stakeholders. I'm happy that the state governors have entered the discussion of restructure, because as you know, the discussion of restructure was entirely held among non-state actors. So this is an interesting development, that even the very governors who would have been protecting the state are now beginning to see the difficulties. And Rotimi Akeredolu spoke for them. 17 of the southern state governors spoke. That's an interesting, even though I think the error they made was in saying national dialogue. I would have thought that what they should have done, call the attorneys general, set up a committee, look at what they feel can be amended in the Constitution, and submit it to the National Assembly. Because you need to, is it fight? I don't know if fight is the right word, but you need to engage. You need to engage this issue, or the step by step. So you put in the constitutional alteration in the National Assembly. Many say the National Assembly is not the right forum for that, but they are there. Some say it has to go through a referendum. That's another argument. But whatever you can catch as a low-hanging fruit, catch it, and then take it on. So the southern governors have talked about restructure. I'm hoping to hear northern governors also putting in their voice. The governor of Kano has openly supported the issue of how can one car walk from Jos to Port Harcourt? Don't you see how thin and emaciated they are? But if you eat meat, don't you see how tough it is to eat the meat? Does it make any sense? Is it a political thing? It's economic. It doesn't make sense that a cow will walk 5,000 miles. What kind of nonsense is that? So these are the issues. So is that a political issue? Is that what is cracking us up, breaking us up? But
no, what is cracking us up is not the cow trekking. They have the freedom to go. They've been doing it for decades or even centuries. That's fine. But the problem is carrying AK-47.
Why are they carrying AK-47? Why are they carrying AK-47?
They're not carrying AK-47 because they want to sell cows. They are carrying AK-47 because now it's more lucrative to kidnap people than to sell cows.
Yeah, but why is it more lucrative to kidnap people and carry AK-47? Because the country is falling apart. That's the point.
Because they feel protected. They feel that nothing will happen. If you know you can commit crime and there will be no punishment, it's called crime and punishment, you will continue to misbehave.
Absolutely, you're right. Absolutely. I agree entirely with you. But that is where you then have what we call impunity. The entire place is riddled with impunity. Nobody is held accountable for anything. And therefore, it comes back to the same point I'm making, that if we spend time on all of the challenges and difficulties without asking ourselves Bola Ige's question, because Dele, is there anything that says I must be with you? Where is it consecrated in any way that there's any country called Nigeria? Was Nigeria not created only in 1914? Did Yugoslavia not break up with the death of Tito? Did the Soviet Union not crack up? So there's nothing. It's not an inviolable doctrine that Nigeria must be sacrosanct. So if we agree, that's why I said that's the question to answer. And that's where the jury is out. Has the jury come back with an answer as to whether Nigeria, speaking for myself, I would choose to be in a strong democratic Nigeria with economic opportunities. I would choose that. But I will not choose to be in a fragile Nigeria where I'm afraid of my life. I can't travel anywhere. I don't know whether if I leave Apapa back to Ikoyi, my head will get blown. I sit in the traffic 3 hours a day, yet Apapa is bringing in 20 billion naira revenue for the government. I don't like all this. And if we can't resolve it, then let us therefore say to Nigeria, well, let's go bury you. But that question has not been answered. And I'd like to, I'd like to proceed with this conversation from an optimistic point of view. I still feel optimistic in spite of all that I've gone through. I'm optimistic, but if it then comes that there are no choices, well, okay, then I want to be to your tent, O Israel.
Sir, there are people I'm monitoring the different platforms, and majority of the people believe that your problem is that you are too optimistic, and that optimism is not going to lead you anywhere. That does it have to get worse than this before you agree to other options? Because it's obvious that some people are not interested in all this, and I'm not talking about the southern governors. Even a professor said the other day, he dismissed the governors as wasting. Said 17 governors sat in an hotel in Delta, and they took a decision that they will ban open grazing. That what do they mean? They didn't consult the Fulani before they did that. It is such arrogance that is driving people mad. But you are here now, you are too cerebral, you are too, too optimistic. Do you think, no, seriously speaking, I think we've already crossed the Rubicon.
No, we haven't. I disagree. No, Dele, I disagree. I don't agree at all. I disagree with you. I disagree with all those making those comments. They were there at the war. Did they fight a war? I fought a war. These people you are referring to, they fight anything. I carried an AK I carried a Shibareta at age 13. I will do everything to avoid conflict. Do they know what conflict is? You don't want to be a refugee. I've been in a refugee camp in Uzuakoli for 6 months. No food, kwashoko, everything was there. War is not the best option. A breakup is not the best option. All those who envisage moving away, They can have that as an option, but a greater Nigeria that works, and that's, I qualify it, that works. A greater Nigeria that works is a better place than a fragmented Nigeria in terms of economic opportunities, in terms of markets, certainly. But a Nigeria that is as fragile as this cannot work, and it will be better replaced by something else. I agree. But all I'm saying is that I, OLISA AGBAKOBA, I'm not there. I have no apologies for that. I'm not there. I still feel that there is a chance to rescue Nigeria if our leaders can get it right. I feel there's a chance to do so. That's all I'm saying. And I'm entitled to believe at least.
Sir, what chance do you have now in the next 2 years under Buhari? So could you project into the future?
Yes.
In the next 2 years, by which this government should expire? I'm not even sure if it will expire. So what are the chances that you foresee?
The chances I foresee would be the chance of dialogue, the chance of leadership and transformation in 2 years. I'm not sure that is a strong option, but the chance of halting the disrepair and the slide towards anarchy, I see an opportunity. If all the elites are going to be intent about sincerity, I see a chance. And I'm happy you used the word chance. I didn't say I see success, so Dele. There's a difference between chance and success. I see a chance. If I'm told that we are at a point where, look, the chance is gone, then I would say, well, we've given it our best. I would like to give the Nigerian experiment the best possible chance to succeed. I would like to do that, in all honesty, because I like a big country, and I feel that Nigeria has that potential to take its place in the Committee of Nations as a good country, if it has two things going for it. Leadership, and you remember Chinua Achebe's trouble with Nigeria. It's squarely a problem of leadership. Structure. And on structure, as I said, I don't see who will not benefit from redirecting the Nigerian structure. Political devolution. The question of regional autonomy. Who has anything against it? I would be surprised if any of the 36 governors would have anything against giving regional autonomy a chance. Nobody, because all the governors have spoken in favor of regional autonomy. What I would like to see is a harmonization of diverse views, where restructure is causing more. To be honest with you, if we can bury the word restructure for now, it will be much better for us as an arbitrator. If something is a clog in the wheel of progress and adds nothing to the debate, it doesn't contribute to the debate, I say, can we substitute this word with another word? So I will substitute restructure with regional autonomy. Which is what the governors of all the states are doing with their regional security outfits, the one in the east, the one in the southwest, and so on and so forth. So I would say, let us promote regional autonomy. And you know what? You know what's surprising? It's also interesting to hear that the very government at the center that has not shown a capacity to take in the word devolution seems to begin to understand as a result of lack of funds. You know that NNPC is saying May FAC is going to be difficult. So I saw the finance minister, I saw Ben Akabueze, I saw senior people around fiscal policy suddenly saying, we have too many, because restructure is not only political, it's also economic. We have too many, you remember the Orosanya report. Can you imagine if the federal government now implements the Orosanya report? It's part of what I hope will give us a chance, because the system is overbloated. I don't think this is the, for necessary to start discussing economic issues, but we're overheating. We're absolutely overheating. And if I see a chance for economic, because at the end of the day, prebendal politics is playing a role. Everybody wants money. The kidnappers want money. I think there's a chance. And I think we ought to give it a chance. So I'm not going to be, dismissive of the potential of a chance in 2 years. No, I won't dismiss it, Dele.
You are talking of dialogue, but I think what you have at the moment is a monologue. You have a president who doesn't speak to his people.
Yeah.
So how do you begin? And you have a political, circles that is so timid and squeamish that they cannot even speak up for their own people. So how do you now expect that anybody in the next 2 years will be able to face a man who does not talk to anybody?
Yeah, because
because he's at the center of it all.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you.
He's at the center of it all.
But I agree entirely with you. Power. There's a statement by a power scholar. Said, "Power never suffers a vacuum." So you think suddenly I will allow you to come? When we were doing all those street marches, do you think we did it because we love to do it, or because we knew that power did not reside totally in the hands of Abacha or IBB? But we knew that unless we hit them on the head, and it was that fighting on March 28, 1998, that finally told the international community, including President Clinton, that no, this silence in Nigeria is not as we think. Clinton was going to come here. He diverted and didn't come. IOB had to fly to a West African country to meet him to say, how can you say that if Abacha becomes a civilian president, you will support him? But we kept on talking in spite of the difficulty. So I don't want people to think that because there is some unmovable rock, that means we should all be quiet. That's what I'm getting. No, we will keep talking. The fact that 17 governors, Dele, spoke is a major crack. Major, don't underestimate it. It's a massive crack, major crack. 17 governors, have they spoken before? All the shout and press conferences and appearances on Ruben's TV show, have they ever talked? 17 governors, I saw Rotimi Akeredolu, unless you didn't see him. I saw him on TV. He's an APC man. Speaking. I said, oh, my friend is finally talking. Because we speak on the phone. I said, oh, you are finally talking. Okay, so this thing is getting to you. The chink has started to crack, believe it or not. But what you Dele is hoping that it will fall one day. It will not fall one day. But the chink, like March 28, 1998, when we did our 5 billion man march, even though we were less than 200, that was the crack. That was the crack. The crack has started. The wall is not going to fall overnight. This is a massive concrete wall that is supported by trillions of naira to talk about the monies abroad. It will take small. But, in an international heavyweight competition, the first punch hit George Foreman. And he said, another 2, he will go down. So the punch has hit George Foreman. The political status has been shaken by that statement by the 17 governors. Let's see what will develop. The speech in Asaba has thrown in a major chink. And what we should all do is latch onto it. We should now give those governors more support and say, yeah, you are right. Even though you have been silent, you guys were right. But now take the next step. Let your attorneys general. So rather than say national, dialogue, we have dialogue forever. Why don't you put together a package of bills you want amended and take it to the National Assembly? Let it enter there. This is no longer from civil society. This is now from the political class, APC and PDP all together, plus the others. They are saying, look, we want a change to our constitution. The president is bound to listen to them. Can't be that silent. That's my personal view.
Wow. Now, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, when I interviewed him, said he's not calling for a fight, but
Yes.
calling for a referendum. Is there a chance of a referendum about those who want to move away from Nigeria?
Yeah, a referendum ought to be part of the discussion once we get the proper formula for the discussion. We haven't gotten the proper formula yet, but as I just said, I would like to think that the 17 southern governors have just joined the active debate. They've taken their seats around the table. Before then, it was Ayo Adebanjo, it was Ohaneze leader, but we will now find seats for the 17 governors. So it's no longer state versus non-state actors. So around that table, that Bola Ige discussion must be answered. Do we want to be one? It's got to be answered. Even Professor Ben Wabeze, when he celebrated his 90th birthday that day, he told me the story of how he was the constitutional advisor to the government of Ethiopia when they were trying to come together. And he sat in the room listening to these ethnic nationalities talk and fight. Eventually, they agreed that this shall be a constitution. We hereby give ourselves a constitution by and for the ethnic nationalities of Ethiopia. So how do we have such a discussion is the challenge that I see. But like I said, let's not underestimate the statement by the governors. And let's see what we can put on the table so that we can then say how, because at the end of the day, there's only one question. Do we want to be in Nigeria and how? And once we solve that problem and answer it properly, I think we'll be well on the way to a good Nigeria after 2023. But I agree it's going to be a very difficult task, a very difficult task.
What are the technicalities involved for a referendum? Some people are very interested. They believe that, yes, you have a right to optimism and they're giving Nigeria another chance. After all, Nigeria gave Buhari another chance, and thinking that in 30 years, he would have learned some lessons and some things would have changed and nothing has changed. So they just want to know, they want you to give us from your wealth of experience. So what are the technicalities? How can a referendum be conducted in a country where some people definitely would not accept it?
A referendum can be conducted to the extent that the people in power want it to be conducted, and to the extent that we allow them to dictate the pace of the discussion. And that's a big challenge, which is why many people feel that the National Assembly is not the appropriate place to discuss a new political system for Nigeria. So that's one element of the discussion. I have a contrary view, being a pragmatic arbitrator. I know that eventually what is important is to get to the top of the hill. And if we take on far too many things, a national referendum calls for a revolutionary process, a new process. That's what it calls for, because the current process doesn't permit it. Whether we like it or not, the Constitution of Nigeria doesn't permit a referendum. The Constitution of Nigeria simply permits the alteration of the Constitution. People question whether the members of the National Assembly are our representatives. I also question the legitimacy of elections of a lot of members of the National Assembly. But per force, I accept it because it's there, not because I like it. So if it will advance my strategy, I will engage it. So I don't see anything wrong in engaging the National Assembly to the extent that what I want will be achieved. So again, what are we looking for? That's an important question to ask. We're looking for a good Nigeria. Whether, as Deng Xiaoping said, China develops from the right or the left side, or a black or a white mice. What's important is development. So I'm not interested in cliches, referendum and restructure and all that. I'm interested in Nigeria that works. So we can't wish away because we don't have but I hope that one day the power to create change will be on the table. But I challenge people who speak because talk is cheap. And luckily, you're talking to a guy for whom talk is not cheap because I walk the walk. I hope you know that, Dele. I have walked the walk, so nobody can brainwash me on this. I have walked the walk both in Biafran prison and Nigerian prison. So what else do I have to prove? Nothing but speak the truth. When we called for 5 million man march, how many people came out? It's easy to say a referendum. How? Where are the people? Where are they in the comfort of their parlors and bedrooms and sitting rooms? Would they come out? If we say referendum, come out now. When Showore called for a revolt, how many people came out? So let's talk what is realistic, please. If you want a referendum, you'll be ready to mobilize Nigeria. If you go and watch the last Tsar, as I watched yesterday, it took a foolish Tsar 20-something years to throw away his chances for the revolt to come from the bottom. So Nigeria can have a referendum if the country is going to explode. Will it? If it will, very good. But in the meantime, I'm going to occupy the space I see. And that space is to continue to engage and to get mileage. After all, was it not the case I went to in court? 2 cases. That is also part of what is creating the national strike by the judicial workers. So that is something. So let us take all the space. So I do not discount the power of referendums, but just know that a referendum requires a political revolution. I hope that's clear to everybody, because it's not in the constitution. It requires the overthrow of the government of Nigeria. That is what a referendum means. Whether it can be achieved by talking or fighting remains to be seen. But let us address the present question, which is how can we make Nigeria work, which I think is the main issue. And I think if we want Nigeria to work, we all have a role to play in this process. There's a constitutional process that is taking place. 6th Assembly, 7th Assembly, 8th Assembly, 9th Assembly, they've been doing this forever. Why is the question? What are we doing? I was happy when the Catholic bishops of the Southeast came out and made a strong statement. So we need more of the elites. We need elite consensus. And I'm happy that the elite consensus has now been joined. And I return to the point of these 17 governors. I want to see the governors of the North also join. So let us have a consensus of 36 governors saying we want Nigeria to change, whether it's by devolution or restructure or going back to 1963, whatever. Let's do something. And we must do that thing in time before it is too late. So let's not speak of this referendum as if it's a birthday party. A referendum is a huge thing. It's a huge
There is a fear that's been expressed around the 2023 elections.
Yeah.
And I asked Mr. Femi Falan on this question yesterday, and I would like to ask you. I know you have to leave very soon because you have some other engagements. Yes. Do you see a possibility of an elongation of Buhari's administration if the general insecurity persists and at the last minute it declares a state of emergency that will make elections impossible?
Then there'll be an outbreak of war. That's what it will be. I don't see the possibility of an elongation of the tenure of the president. The tensions are already too much. The Nigerian nation is stretched to capacity. That if you add anything on it, it will simply blow up. I don't see that. No way, no way, no way. I don't see that. I don't envisage it. 2023 is sacrosanct. I thought the question you were going to ask was, do I see the possibility of elections in 2023, given the present?
Yeah, that's part of what I said, that if elections become impossible, then what are the options?
To your tent,
because some people are already saying they don't even want any election again.
then that is to your tent, so Israel. That's what it means. If we're unable to resolve we have 2 years or less. We don't have that kind of time. If we're unable to resolve this issue, the marriage is over. It's as simple as that. The marriage is going to come to an end. If we can't resolve this, I mean, the chance of Nigeria continuing without elections, for me, is unimaginable. It will, I mean, look, already you can see that, just to name one person, Nnamdi Kanu, rightly or wrongly, I'm not interested in whether he's right or wrong, but you can see that he's fully mobilized. So to then extend the tenure of a democratic government that ends in 2023 further gives fuel to the revolution that has been waiting to happen. So I don't see that type of extension. And that, I think, is the more reason why I would urge those elites who are listening that they don't have the type of time they think they have. And this time in the history of Nigeria, I don't recall when Nigeria has been so fragile. And it is very important that people, those who feel that they can steal money. Okay, if you steal money, to where? And do what with it? And there's no country. So I think everybody in the political parties in particular, and all the other elites, need to say to themselves, we have a very limited time to resolve Nigeria's problems. Otherwise, we're saying nunc dimittis. We're wishing that Nigeria will break up. And I don't wish it personally. I've made that clear. I don't wish it. So the question you ask reinforces my view that we need to have great urgency in the repair of the political arrangements called Nigeria.
The Igbo elites who still believe in Nigeria, as opposed to the Nnamdi Kanus who believe it is over. They believe that the Igbo must produce the next president. What is your attitude to this request?
I have two attitudes. First is that in a country as diverse as Nigeria, inclusion is a very important tool to resolve differences. And that's why we say, unity in diversity. So the Igbo people feel that we've never been part of this. And it's not a right or wrong thing. We've just not been part of it. When I was NBA president and there were the Midwest part of the NBA, because NBA is broken into 3 geographical divisions. And somehow the Midwest was neither Midwest nor part of the West. So I resolved that problem. So I know what it is to exclude people from an arrangement. It's very hurtful. I mean, Canada is a dual-speaking country, French and English, only because of Quebec, just because of Quebec. And it has made Canada a more peaceful country. So sentimentally and emotionally, the Igbos will be, or ought to be, given a chance to produce the presidency in the interest of peace, stability, equality, fairness, good conscience, and justice. But will that help anything? If an Igbo president becomes, would it become is an Igbo president in the context of the challenges we have? What would it do? So whilst one part of me as an Igbo man says yes, but the other part says I'm more interested in a Kanuri man becoming president if he would take Nigeria from where we are to the second greatest country in the world. That is what I think I'm looking for. I'm hoping for a country where I don't have to answer a question, who is the next president of Nigeria? Where is he going to come from? I'm not interested, because I don't see how people who have come from my town have helped me in any way. So what is it to me? Or that it has become a rationalizing way of those in the room grabbing power and sharing the loot and keeping us all hungry. You've kept us all hungry. The fact that a particular person is president, does it really help his town? I don't want to talk about a particular president whose house was flooded about 2 months ago or 3 months ago or 4 months ago. How did he, even as president, help his own town? So I think that those are very myopic arguments, but you have to understand it in the context of where we are, who we are. People want to see justice. People feel, the Southeast people feel, why are we not in this thing? Is it because we lost a war? So if that's going to bring peace, then I would say yes, I go for an Igbo president in 2023. But I go beyond that to say we need to repair Nigeria structurally. A house of 15 floors that is cracked at the foundation cannot be resolved merely because you change the roof and paint the building. You have to go and look at the crack, fundamental crack at the foundation. Nigeria is fundamentally cracked. And where the president comes from is unimportant to how the foundation stands.
Oh, wow. Lastly,
Yes.
Let's talk about your new passion, the story of cancer. How did that start?
Actually, it's not cancer, it's kidney. Kidney.
Oh, kidney.
Proven
Yes.
cancer. Yeah. Okay, no,
Yes.
yes. I've been hypertensive and diabetic for a long time. And those are two terrible plagues that you can, develop a kidney challenge. But luckily, I had a very good nephrologist, and nephrologist is a kidney specialist. So he was able to very quickly, in 2 weeks, in fact, in the hospital, I hold the record for being the, quickest patient that ever recovered. So I recovered, and since then, the last 3 years, I've been well, but I've been told, no more drinking a whiskey, I have to quit. so finally, because I've been finding it tough, but 3 months ago, I said, you know what? The day I came on Ruben's program, and I said, no, because I had just been on a, examination with the doctor. And said, I can still see I can still see the whiskey in your system. It's easy to tell if your triglycerides are high, if your gamma, there's something called the gamma T. It's a marker in the liver that shows, you're having a lot of people in the night. So I said, okay, you know what, doctor, I'm going to beat this. And I've since done that, and all my values are good. So what I say to people, particularly those who want to be in politics, you've got to be healthy. That's the crucial thing. Health is wealth. You've got to be healthy. So it's another thing that I also am very passionate about. You've got to have your health in good check. Check your BP, check your sugar, check what you eat, moderate your lifestyle, be content, don't grab. Look at what COVID did to a friend of mine who had, so much wealth. Now it's gone. What about the wealth? So just be content. And I say that to the politicians too. All this power they want, for what? Because it's the greed of politicians that's causing all this problem. The health of the nation is unstable because politicians are very greedy. What they accumulate, they cannot finish in 50 lifetimes. The type of power that they have, they can't finish it. So why don't they just relax? Make it good for everybody. You are a big man in Abuja. You go to your village, there's no electricity. You are the only one with light. All the big cars you bring is going on third roads. You have boreholes, you have nothing. So what is the quality of life? What is after that you go back to Abuja? So there's a certain deceit in health, whether it's that of body or power. Just be relaxed. You don't need too much. So in the UK, don't you see the prime minister going by train? But here, the president goes in 34 cars. Those are the problems. So we can cool our temperature, both actually physically health-wise and politically health-wise, by just taking things easy. You don't need too much. So that's the advice I give Nigerian politicians. Go and check your health. I don't mean your physical health, I mean your political health. Go and check it and stop being greedy. That's all.
Finally.
Yes.
If you have the opportunity to speak to Buhari today, what would you tell him?
I tell him, Mr. President, you don't need all the power ascribed to you by the Constitution. You need more guys around you. The more you have people around you, the easier your work is actually. But the less people you have, the more difficult. So what's the point having 68 items of power that you can't even touch 3? Why don't you have 68 guys to do it at different levels from the local government up so that people can benefit from the dividends of democracy? Again, back to the last Tsar of Russia, the Romanov. When he was about to be shot, his captor offered him a cigarette. And he was shocked at the captor's, diffidence. So the captor reminded him, I was holding a flag amongst the millions of people, Russians, when your train was passing. And the Tsar said, but I did my best. He said, did you do your best for the people? That is the ultimate question I will ask Buhari. How have people benefited? I remember even you, Dele, you remember our relationship with MKO. Even though he's gone, people can still remember, MKO, this is what he did, this is what he did. If you are in politics and you can't point to something that you have done for somebody, then you have not done well. So I tell you, Mr. President, if you look at these 6 years, is there the possibility of saying, here is what I have done? Say, please do it. You don't have to, you think you have time, you don't have time. These 2 years you have left, trying to make sure that every policy you make has an impact. Look at this NSAS thing. Nigerians are hungry. All the warehouses are full of COVID food. How can that be good? So that's the advice I would give the president. Just do good by people and they will remember and hail you. You don't even need to be in a bulletproof car because the very people who are around you will be the ones to protect you because of the good that you do. Goodness is the best way to be forever remembered. That would be my advice to him.
Wow. Thank you, sir. This has been very, very interesting. We've done nearly about 85 minutes now. I would like to thank you, sir, for this great moment. I can tell you this has been worth all the trouble. I'm happy you agreed to speak to me at short notice. Thank you, and my regards to your dear wife and your family. I know you are a proud dad. Okay, now let me tease you before you go. It is said that an Igbo man, if he's looking for a boy, always takes a second wife. So how did you manage it?
No, not all Igbo men. Not all Igbo men. You are very wrong here. Not all Igbo men. And
that is what people say. So
well, I don't mind that.
I just wanted to pull your legs.
I know.
You know,
yeah.
But you are a proud family man, proud granddad, and I want to congratulate you, sir. So
Thank
Dr. Ruben Abati will quickly come in and give us the closing remarks. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Abati.
Okay, I've unmuted my microphone. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Well,
Thank
first,
you.
let me start with you, DELE MOMODU, just to congratulate you again. This is the third in the series, and just as engaging, very exciting. Maybe there will be an opportunity, maybe sometime tomorrow or on Sunday, to give a perspective summary. But I think today has been really exciting. We have had, for the benefit of those who are joining us, former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, founder of the Civil Liberties Organization, founder of AfroNet, one of Nigeria's leading defenders of the civic space, the democratic space and human rights, and also a leading practitioner in virtually every field of legal engagement in Nigeria, an icon in his chosen profession. And a number of takeaways from what Dr. Agbakuba has said. The first is his point about how, look, Nigeria is failing. Nigeria is going down. Nigeria, to use his word, is existentially challenged. Things are not just right in Nigeria. And the question is, what do we do? What is the way forward? Now, he says, yes, that's something that every other Nigerian is thinking about at the moment. People want to do something. But how about the intent? I think that's a new point that has showed up in this conversation. What's the motivation of the people who want to do something about these fault lines in Nigeria? Is there a consensus? Because the intent has to be positive if you want to do Nigeria. Now, his other point, he addressed the fact that there are many Nigerians who are asking for war, who think that Nigeria should be dismembered. And he was very clear. He was very pragmatic in saying, as a man who, as early as the age of 13 or 14, found himself in the theater of war, he does not think that war is the solution. He does not think that, the people who have not seen war, who are asking for war, who are asking for secession, know what they are talking about. And he speaks as a man who has seen war in Biafra, and who has also been as leader of the 5 million, one of the leaders of the 5 million march, man march against Abacha in 1998, who went to prison for it. So he has walked the talk. So he speaks as a pragmatist, as a man who has seen it all. However, he understands the fact that there are problems in Nigeria, but he does not think that dismemberment of Nigeria is the solution. He thinks that it is still possible that Nigeria can be rescued, Nigeria can be redeemed. He says, as a citizen, he would rather be in a big country than go to a small country that is the product of dismemberment, because he does not think, as he put it, that Nigeria has crossed the Rubicon. So the whole basis of his submission is about the optimism that a new Nigeria is possible. Then, of course, the other question that he addresses, how is that new Nigeria possible? He thinks, one, civic engagement is important, that the people need to engage themselves. And if they're talking about restructuring, which he says, look, it's beginning to sound like a cliche, like a catchphrase. Everybody's saying restructuring, restructuring, but there is no agreement over what this restructuring constitutes. But in his view, if this restructuring is about political restructuring, okay, can we begin to talk about technical devolution of powers? Can we begin to talk about regional autonomy? Can we begin to talk about taking a second look at the Constitution in terms of deconstructing, the exclusive list as regards the concurrent list, and ensuring that the center is less powerful, is less domineering? And interestingly, this was the same point, that came forward very strongly yesterday when we had a conversation with Mr. Femi Falana, SAN, about federalism, about how to make the, to devolve powers to the centers that are closest to the people. And he also thinks that, look, this restructuring that we talk about, it looks like something that, just a few people are just exchanging catchphrases about. He wants a conference of ethnic nationalities, that the dialogue should be bottom up, the conversation should be bottom up rather than top bottom, because the key people are the people of Nigeria. And we must get to a point where the Nigerian people are the ones who determine their own future. Because, as he says, the whole thing is about the analogy of marriage. That, what we're dealing with is an imposed marriage. Now, do you force, quoting, as he did, the late Chief Bolage, do you force two people to be in a marriage? If they want to be in a marriage, you don't talk about constitution. They have agreed. And he thinks that, look, we must discuss the nature of the marriage. What is the nature of this Nigerian marriage? And that every opportunity should be provided for that. He, however, says that if that is not possible, then, of course, it will be to thy tent, O Israel. But he doesn't think that should be resolved through violence, through conflict, through war. Now, there was a subject that came up yesterday about referendum. And you recall that Femi Falana SAN was saying that, look, referendum is not provided for in terms of dissolving Nigeria. Maybe you can talk about it with regard to creation of local governments or state governments, but it has to be, if it must happen, a referendum or a plebiscite, then it has to be an extra constitutional measure. And I was excited when, OLISA AGBAKOBA SAN made a point that, look, that will amount to a revolution, and it will be a kind of revolution that will amount to the displacement of the government of the day. So some of these issues, I think are issues that we should continue to focus on. On Igbo presidency, I thought it was a bit neutral. Well, I mean, it took a politically correct stand to say that, yes, inclusion is important, diversity is important, and it is not good to exclude people, and that Igbos, under the principles of justice, equity, fair conscience, and all of that, have the right to be president of Nigeria. Because if you exclude people, then, of course, you create the kind of problems that we are seeing. But what is the guarantee that if your brother is president of Nigeria, he will deliver, he will serve your purpose? Okay, so I think that, his contribution about leadership transformation, whether it's possible or not, about dialogue, about the need for a big country, these are issues, I guess, that all of us can continue to focus upon. And then he talked about the governors coming together. The southern governors, they are beginning to join the dialogue. And he expects that governors of the North will also join this critical engagement with Nigerians in terms of finding a way forward for the country. Well, from what the certain stakeholders in the North have been saying, are we likely to get that elite consensus, given the fact that the country is so divided? Well, the final takeaway, I think, is the fact that Nigeria is a centrifugal federalism. And that's a phrase I'm taking away from him. He said it's centrifugal, that Nigeria is extremely fragile. But even in spite of all of that, Nigeria can still be rescued. So the optimism that he has expressed, I think, is very important, and it's a very noteworthy contribution to the debate that we started 2 days ago. Finally, Pastor DELE MOMODU, I'm hoping that at the end of this process, leading towards your 61st birthday, all of this will just not be on social media. That will, there will be an opportunity to put all of it together, because we have had very important perspectives from key persons who have been in the forefront of the struggle for Nigeria. I hope you find the time and the resources and the energy to put a fence around all of this. And on behalf of everybody, I just want to say thank you very much, Dr. OLISA AGBAKOBA.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, Dr. Agbakuba.
Thank you,
Dr. Abati. Thank you so much. I don't know if Doctor wants to give us a final, anything else to add?
Except to say that I don't know how Ruben knows how to summarize things so greatly.
Incredible.
He starts with a massive introduction of me, but he ends up with a massive summary of what I have been saying. So, well, that's why he's a doctor, I guess. Well done, Ruben.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Fantastic. In fact, when you were speaking, some of the things you were saying, I said, actually, did I actually say all this? It's always good to have someone. Oh yeah, it was brilliant. Thank you so much.
No, that's why I always call on him, and I must thank him again publicly that he has never failed to deliver. On my 59th birthday, I brought him to interview the former president of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, and he gave an introduction that even till today, the man is always asking me, "How your friend? How is he?" Because he went deep down even to his village in Ghana.
Wow.
Without reading from his script. It's incredible. All the dates.
Yes.
That's Ruben for you.
Yes.
He's a genius. He's a genius, and I'm happy that he's back from Aso Rock, so that the demons of Aso Rock did not consume him totally.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Sir. Bye-bye, sir. Yes,
Bye.
Sir.
Bye.